this is my question then. Two questions. What is the correlation between George Kimburi, Kibet Bull, and 60 lives that were lost? Second, if then criminal gangs can abduct more than 59 people, the Inspector General tells Parliament they don't know about their whereabouts. More than 1,160 people sustained gunshot wounds, and 60 people were killed pre, during, and post the demonstrations in 2024. Then what kind of country are we living in?
To contextualize this matter.
Yeah, no, these are lives, Victor. It's not a matter of context.
And I acknowledge the fact that there were lives lost.
Yes, what is the correlation between George Kimburi, Kibet Bull, and 60 lives that were lost?
The correlation and the denominator here is abduction.
So all of the 60 people abducted themselves, according to you?
Now, to bring this matter into context.
Yes.
We've had a situation in this country where people sometimes disappear. We've had the Shakahola massacre, for example, where more than 100 Kenyans disappeared in a government existing fully with intelligence. Now, that time, there were criminal activities done in the country, and the intelligence and the government of the day and the establishment under the leadership of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta didn't actually realize there were criminal gangs. In the same context, maybe there are criminal activities, but again...
So in your view, Victor, to just be...
in my view, there are people who are playing politics.
Okay, so all the 60 lives were all politics?
I'm not saying all the 60 lives were politics.
Yes, but so why then correlate? Why are you relating?
But I'm saying again...
The point of George Kimburi, which is under active investigations,
yes,
and 60 young Kenyans who are fell.
You know, the problem, Ayub, with this country is that we try to politicize everything that happens. If the person of an elected member of parliament can abduct himself and blame it on government...
You have prosecuted that point.
What?
Victor, I get your point.
Yes.
I have understood your point. You're absolutely clear on that. What then is the correlation between George Kimburi's self-abduction, as you have called it, happened in 2025, a year down the line since 60 young Kenyans were killed? Assuming if I was among the 60 who I was shot, how will you feel?
The report actually that came out, and when the president acknowledged the matter about abductions...
He didn't acknowledge. He disputed the figures by the taxpayer-funded Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
But again, Ayub, we have an independent police force who are tasked to do this investigation. Why then every time you bring in... You know, the president, again, gave the police the independence to prosecute these matters. And the police are doing their job by telling us what is happening. It doesn't mean, for heaven's sake, and for us to be fair enough, let the police do their independent job. And if there are people who are criminally doing the abductions, let's prosecute that matter differently, and let's not mix issues so that we make the head of state and the government
the place of institutions. Okay, point made. Yes, Derek, Abdul will come to you, and then Faith, and then to you. And then...
the sentient opinion by my friend Kiprono are actually a very big disgrace. Let me just use that word for lack of a better statement to say. You see, when you say police is making investigations and police has said the man has abducted, so which one do we listen to? The police itself is confusing us. You see, just last week when you're saying the man kidnapped himself, there was a hearing, I think, in Kiambu, in the Kiambu court, Justice Abigail Mushila. And Justice Abigail Mushila read the law.
You're talking about?
Yes, about Kimburi.
Kimburi, yes.
Kimburi's case. And it was a habeas corpus warrant that you should produce the body. And it was read to the police itself to produce the body. For you, where Kiprono kuja paleo, and you decide to say at Kimburi and 60 other Kenyans have been abducting themselves. And most of all, let me just pinpoint this, and this you should never repeat it, Kiprono. Usijaribu kusema kitu tena. Shakahola people were never abducted. Whatever happened in Shakahola, you were still healing from that. And for you, when you come here to try to tell us that Shakahola, 60 other Kenyans, and Kibet Bull, seriously. These are people who are championing. I am sure 60 years from now, someone will write a book about Kibet Bull ati alipigania inchi. And for you, where Kiprono hapo umefanya nini inchi? For you have decided to come here and call all these people abducting themselves and all these things. Let me say, you see, in Zimbabwe there was a man called Morrison Nyadhi. Morrison Nyadhi, when people were fighting the freedom fighters against the white man, this guy went and distorted the weapons of all these people, and later that eventually led to their capture. Because when they were caught, they failed to fire. You see, in Mau Mau, Kenya, when we were fighting, there was a guy called Ndirangu Mau. Ndirangu Mau was the man who eventually decided to go and hand over the Dan Kimathi to the white man, and the rest is history like we see today. What we see Kiprono here and many other young people on this panel, we shall see them by their fruit. What they're saying here today is a clear example that they have been socialized to that particular club of the individualistic, the rich and unholy that we talk about in this government. When you see them talking about, Kiprono, you're a young man, seriously. If I look at you, 20 years from now.
20
years from now, let me make my point. I kept quiet when you're talking. Let me just make my point. You see, 20 years from, if you proceed like this, we shall not have a country. We shall not have a country with leaders that think Shakahola was a joke. We shall not have a country with people that think all these goings on are actually a joke. You see, the people like Kiprono here that we see have failed the ethical test. They have failed the ethical test because they are avoiding the real political struggle and they are deciding to conform to this regime.
Okay, which is?
To mention the real issues, to cite out these issues like I'm doing here particularly, what they're deciding to do is try to dramatize, to fall to the defense of the system, so for their own particular gain. And we are clear about that. Last week we were here, Kazmuel Makore, Morara Kebaso, all these, I'm calling out those names. Whoever is falling prey to this regime, we are seeing you and we want to sound a resounding warning to them, particularly. You see, this country needs a surgery, and we are identifying those people one by one. Kiprono, when in number moja, you are among those people who will fall on the table for surgery. Where?
Okay.
Kazmuel, Morara,
yes.
Tutanguka now, what? And a surgery without anesthesia.
And I hope that does not translate to violence.
I have the right of reply.
Yeah.
Because
but okay, yeah, I'll come to you. Allow me to share the time around. We have enough time. Yes,
now to finish on the apology, and if you look at that day, the events, starting from the build-up, the sentiments that were made were not friendly, were far much threatening the Gen Zs. Now, I am perplexed to explain whether the president's apology came after the American star, Ricky Bolden, said we should listen to the Gen Z, or is it coming after or is he emulating what Museveni did? Because it's Museveni who asked for the forgiveness. So I am confused. Now, on the issue of Kimburi, I am also confused to explain how the same DCI could not find the abductors 1 year down the line, yet they can complete the investigation and zero into the abductors in less than 24 hours. So I don't know where we stand. I don't know what is happening.
Okay, yes, Faith. I'll come to you, Sawa and Jacob.
Thank you so much, Ayub. So, I don't know where to start from, but first
anywhere you so wish.
I'll just pick it up from here. I mean, there's a post I did sometimes back on my Facebook page about youth and politics of opinion. You know, and right now it's so sad that we've reduced our conversations to now individual politics rather than fighting a unified cause. If at all, you know, youths are talking about change that they so much preach about. If we come here to this panel and start talking about individuals like Kasmuel, you know, and we have so many issues with the youth that if we can actually have a proper strategic and one channel, we can actually bring change. Now, Onjeko mentioned something to do with the bar, you know, and sorry to say that, but it's so sad if you are the person talking about the bar and your party leader is Rigathi Gachagua, then, I mean, there is no bar there. You know, you can't be talking about youth and the bar being too low and your party leader is Rigathi Gachagua, you know, and I think we should stop this double standard. Or we want to call out one person and forgo another person because now, so long as you're speaking a different language or you're opposing the government, then that is the way to go. So lives were lost, and it's a sad thing. And this is something that no one should joke about. And we should actually acknowledge that lives were lost and the government should work on a proper way to compensate the families that lost their lives, you know, and these are people's kids, you know, mothers are still mourning. Some people haven't even found their kids. So we shouldn't actually try to ignore the fact that youths lost their life in the streets. And what we should push on is IPOA to bring forth the perpetrators, the government to conclude on the investigations and give these families closure. So that is, I think, the most decent thing. That is the decent thing all of us can talk about. But now when we talk about real change and the youth and politics, I mean, we should just be real. We should just be real. Ruto apologizing and we're saying that is not enough. And at the same time, we're supporting people like Rigathi Gachagua who, I mean, has committed so many atrocities to this country that even if you start mentioning, so we shouldn't be talking about the bar and one side mentioning another person and excusing the other.
Okay, Wanjuk, I'll come to you for a right of reply.
Yes, and Ayub, I said this last time that when I was here that it doesn't mean that when something is wrong and it's done by William Ruto, then it is right, or something is right and it is done by Gachagua, then it is wrong. Let's make it very plain and clear. If something is wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right.
That's right.
And let's not talk about bars and whatever when we're actually talking about a progressive government. This government has 5 years mandate. We've seen the events since this happened. We've seen the independence and the latitude that IPOA and judiciary has had to even be able to prosecute and discuss these matters. But
that's already granted, is it, even before this government came to power?
But we've had such events before.
Constitutionally granted.
We've had such events before, but we never saw it. It never saw the light of the day. So what we know in this country is that the goodwill of the presidency is very important in the independence and the maturity of the different agencies that we have in this country. And I think what William Ruto has done, separating the funding of police to be directly run by the IG, giving the latitude to IPOA to make those decisions, allowing judiciary to make rulings and following those rulings. Although we've had rulings that we can say questionably, we've had issues with them. But William Ruto, as a president and the leader of the executive, has continuously given us hope in terms of how the maturity of the institutions have been. And this is a fact. When we can look at the numbers, we can look at the statistics. When President Moi and KANU leadership, that my friend Dr. Barasa is now leading the political advisory team in KANU, was in leadership, we saw all these things happen, but there was never any justice that were even provided or any processes that were done. So what we must think and agree as young people is that where we are is not where we want to be. But can we appreciate the fact that we are moving in the right direction? And if the speed that we are moving is not good enough, then what can we do to be able to improve that? So what I wish to hear is that the IPOA actually delivers the verdict to the police officers. The judiciary delivers the judgment. Let's have the people who have been prosecuted lined up. Then we see no action taken. Then we can blame the presidency and say, okay, President William Ruto, as the leader of this government, we haven't seen these actions being implemented. What can you tell Kenyans about the police officers who have been charged and have not been fired?
Okay.
Or when we see the report from the IPOA about all this, and we don't see government taking any action, even after the commitment. The president made a commitment that all these families will be given some sort of, they will receive benefits and also be because they lost their children. So until that is not done, because right now he has mandate for 5 years, we are seeing the progress in court, we are seeing the progress with the IPOA. So if this is not done, then we can hold him accountable. But it is unfair today if you say that this will happen, and you haven't given us a timeline, then we just blame you because it has not happened. Then I think that's unfair.
Okay, Elijah, first, just on a factual point, the president has no prosecutorial powers. IPOA is among the other institutions that are empowered by the Constitution.
But he runs the executive that funds these institutions, Ayub.
So, and the funding is done by Parliament, which the president has no control over.
Thank you. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes, but how come?
So I was coming to the point of the rule of law which you brought in.
Yes.
Because in January 2024, in Nyandarua County, the president led a battalion of political class, including the leadership of the House, to attack judges and the judiciary. Was that healthy in a democracy?
Sorry?
Was that healthy in a democracy?
What?
Attacking the judiciary. Accusing judges of corruption where there was none.
Yeah.
No, but we had a process that was done by the Judiciary Oversight Authority, and we actually we even have names of judges who actually found guilty of bribes. So I think the president was talking from a context. There are judgments that were ruled, and we actually saw that process completed.
Well, it's only Gachagua who said he will deliver a petition before the Judicial Service Commission, and he never showed up. We expected him at the Supreme Court. Yes, Wanjeko.
Abdikadir, thank you for giving me the right of reply. Kiprono, I'm shocked by your lack of empathy. It's really shocking, and that's what reflects this regime. It is not empathetic to the misgivings and the abductions and the fear, the weight of fear that young people are carrying. Not only young, even the political class. George Kimburi is my MP in Juja. I come from Juja constituency. You see, he was abducted, what he went through. I know, Kiprono, you haven't gone to hospital to see him, so you are speaking hypothetically. But he's in pain.
Who abducted him?
Exactly. That's the question. And he's saying he is self-abducted. But why would he throw such a callous statement out here? You see, that is character.
Two issues to be clear. We have addressed substantively the issue of the young souls that were cut short.
Yes.
And why did the MP, according to authorities, stage his abduction? Because the vehicle, according to the data, the NTSA portal, belonged to another gentleman. It wasn't a vehicle that was registered at the government of Kenya. So why would an elected member of parliament go that far?
And that's you see what we have and what we at the moment, what is going on. Yeah. It's that with the abductions that are going on at the moment, and I've always kept asking myself, who has this intelligence and the infrastructure to do this? It's not only even my MP. There's also an honorable member called Grace City. We don't know where she is. Honorable member from Moranga County. She's an MCA. You see, back in the day, that's what happened to JM. He disappeared, and the next minute, we found his body. His body was dumped. So we can't take these matters or these cases lightly. It's a weighty issue. It's really a weighty issue. And we are taking lives lost with a lot of, with a lot of, at only kind of big deal. But when our life is lost, so many families undergo a lot of pain. And that is somebody whose time hadn't come to an end. So it has been cut short. And another issue that my party leader did not show up at the National Prayer Breakfast meeting. Where will he come to sit in a place where a regime that pushes abduction, where economic rights of not only young people, but of Kenyans, of citizens, are not being looked at care after, where healthcare is not being prioritized, where education, matters that are very basic to Kenyans, are not being looked after. For us, and that's why we are championing.
Was he invited?
I don't know. At the end of the day, because he's a political leader, so whether with invite or not, he might decide to go or not. But at the end of the day, the question is, why would he go and sit down and do perform? And that, for me, that prayer breakfast is a lot of performance. At the end of the day, we must, because leadership is service. So at the end of the day, we must be true to our citizens. And first of all, and I think this is so important, empathetic leadership is so critical.
Okay.
And we do not take that, we don't take that too much importance in this country.
And your party leader championed for some of those policies when he was the deputy president.
And he actually, Abdikadir, and one thing I want to say, my party leader has shown efforts to, first of all, I know my party leader is not an angel, but he has shown efforts of reconciliatory measures. He has apologized on the things he said, that because at the end of the day, he was a deputy president. And if you're a deputy, your work is obedience. You're told this, you implement that. And we know we are all employed, so we know where we work. Our first act is obedience.
But his apology also
Number two, during the Gen Z protest, Rigathi Gachagua was the only person. He did 2 press statements, pressers, standing with the young people. Yeah. And as young people, we must map out our allies. We do have to map out our allies. Number 3, we have a political party called the DCP party. Kiprono here said that we are doing a lot of drama because, the DCP party is not performing. I want to tell you, right now, when we announce, we are just unveiled. I think we are just even
2-3 weeks.
Yeah, old. We just unveiled, and already, when the parliament was back on recession, why did they spend a whole afternoon speaking about my party leader? Why are you claiming that we are not popular? We are very popular, even with 3 weeks old. How many members have we registered today?
How many?
Well, our deputy party leader said over 2.5 million people have already registered into our party. Allow me to also talk. Let me talk about this. Let me talk about DCP party, because people keep talking about one element about DCP party. And our party leader, Rigathi Gachagua, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. I agree, and I say here, he's a critical and an important element of DCP party. But DCP party is not about one person. DCP party is a whole party. It's an institution. It's a political institution where we promote active democracy. For us, and our ideologies, let me talk about our ideologies. Our ideologies is equality, justice, and inclusivity. Rigathi Gachagua has given 5 neck positions to young people. 5. I am among the people who are sitting at the neck. And I want to say that that is showing that truly he means well for young people, and he is supporting the young people. And let's talk about even the DCP party as an institution, because we have structures. We have the NDC, we have NEC. So people really obsessing about a party and one person. It's not it.
Okay.
And the party leader actually told us, he told us his dream of this party. It has to go beyond him. Okay. This is an institution that you're building to stay here for years.
All right. Point taken. Point taken.
I wanted to mention something.
Let me just wait.
Yes, Faith. Allow me to get the lady.
He said his party leader, she has said that her party leader is not an angel. And the party leader's apology also started with an F. So if, you know, I'm not trying to draw a comparison, but if you're going to put... if you're going to put some rules, let the rules apply to everyone. I mean, Ruto comes out and His Excellency the President comes out to apologize, and then you're choosing the if part, and the same thing your party leader said, and you're now saying your party leader is not an angel, so, and expecting the President to be an angel, you know. So it doesn't really make sense. And you can't be talking about the neck when this person, when he was still in government, when he was talking about the shareholding, he had 7 positions. He never gave them to any youth from his community. So let us not be people, I don't know, let us stop having selective amnesia when it comes to other issues that doesn't involve us, but apply to other people.
Okay, yes, Victor, I'll come to you. Just hang on.
Thank you, Ayub. And excuse me if I am misquoted. I am a realist. I have been misquoted. And I need to set the record straight. I am a realist.
Yes, please.
I am not come here to be empathetic. I've just come here to speak the truth and go back home and continue playing my patriotic rights as a citizen. Today, I am on Citizen Television to just state facts and from where I sit and from my own point of perspective. Okay. I am saddened by my brother from Kano, who is trying to lecture me on matters democracy and on matters human rights. Yet, when we draw back to history, because as an historian, it tells us that we learn from history so that we can mirror where we are going. And now he's the one telling us how we are supposed to behave, how democracy is supposed to be done, how things are supposed to be done, when the 24-year rule party by his former party leader was meted with a lot of injustices. Now, the same my sister is calling selective amnesia is actually what is happening. Many people have chosen to be emotional on subjects that are critical so that they can look politically right. I am not choosing that path. I'm choosing the path of truth. I'm choosing the path of true leadership and true transformation. True transformation will come when we are true to ourselves and we face realities not by being emotional so that we can look right, so that we can look politically right, but we choose, and I choose to say what I'm saying today because I want to be understood from a point of the realities from where I sit, not from an emotional point of view. Again, when we talk about Democratic Citizens People Party, we mention the word democracy. This is the same political party with a party leader who is telling musicians from his own community that you will be unfollowed. You will not be allowed to go to cinemas and to go to clubs and to perform if you side with the president, yet you call yourself a democratic party. Then we ask yourself, what is the meaning of democracy? What exactly is the meaning of democracy? Democracy dictates that you freely engage, you freely perhaps you freely engage with different persons. You don't have to be singing a choir to one master. But now the same people who are now telling us about how to behave are the same party leader, for heaven's sake, who is telling musician from his own community that you will be unfollowed, telling even people unfollow them, don't even invite them to come to your weddings because they have gone to State House or they have gone to Karen to meet the deputy president. And yet you are a political party telling us about democracy. So, yet you have the moral authority to come here and tell us about the president issuing an apology. Excuse me.
In your view, what's the definition of a democracy?
In my view, the definition of democracy is the free will. The free will.
Respect the will of the people.
Exactly.
And the president did not respect the will of his MPs when they chose Kindiki over Gachagua in 2022.
True. But again, the president now, at that context, is the one the one who appointed his deputy, because the deputy is an appointee of the.
But there was the process was subject to a voting, and members of parliament from Mount Kenya region preferred Kindiki over Gachagua at the time.
But there were other prevailing circumstances that therefore made at that time His Excellency the President to choose Gachagua over Kindiki because of some reason known to him at that particular point in time.
But in a democracy, the only circumstance that can be accepted is the will of the people, which is its outcome. Americans elected and gave themselves a convicted felon. They are living with the reality, Donald Trump.
But again, we also need to be fair enough when we are prosecuting democracy. In a context of the president appointing Gachagua as his running mate over Kindiki was, for example, the prevailing circumstances at that time.
Okay.
You know, we were in a regime where His Excellency the President had a lot of issues with his finances. His finances were frozen. And perhaps he was looking for ways in which he can circumnavigate the political scene and become the president. Now, talking about democracy in the context of a party telling us about democracy.
Now, democracy is democracy, Victor.
But again, why do we become selective?
Yeah.
When we want to make government look so negative, even on small matters that are therefore not even necessary. Because today,
Victor, the government at any given time is subject to accountability because they're exercising power on behalf of the people, and anyone who holds public office is subject to accountability, including the head of state. And he himself, by the way, a reminder, in January 2023, his first major television interview 4 months after he came to office, said, "I am an open book, read me as you so wish."
And that open book, we've been reading it so openly.
Yeah.
And I know there is no president in Africa. There is no president in Africa who has been so open than His Excellency William.
Okay,
William Ruto has been the most open president we've ever seen. Now to finish.
Yes, finish up, please.
My brother from Kano is telling me that I will be subject
on the surgery.
On the surgery.
I hope that's not violent.
But again, I want to tell my brother that as young people, as we fight and as we let us not negate the fact that all of us as young people, we throw our aspirations from different perspectives.
Okay.
There are people who have chosen different paths from their own beliefs. He believes that Kanu is, with Jogo, is the one to deliver the country maybe 63 years after independence. And we believe as young people that the president, His Excellency, and the United Democratic Alliance and a broad-based government is the one to deliver the country to the next.
Point made.
Let me.
Yes, please, Derek. Yeah.
See, let me start with. I may be Lucius in the way that I stated that statement of surgery, but I think we read the context behind it, and we realize that I'm trying to drive the point home. As young people, we are faced with an intransigence in this government. The Ruto's government has failed all of us. It has not failed me alone. It has failed Kiprono. It has failed everyone here. Sawe, everyone. So, because share is not working. Education is not working. The new funding model, all these things are not working.
Share is working.
Yeah? No, it's not working. Until you fall sick and you go there. It's because you are in government, your bread is buttered.
No,
that's why you're saying share is working. So, let me. Have you used it for critical care? Have you used it for... There's a doctor right now in Moi Teaching who is suffering as they've never had any compensation from SHA. What are you talking about? So because it's not working for you, but that's not the issue now.
SHA is working.
I asked for a right of reply.
There's some flaws, but it's actually
You see, I asked for a right of reply. You see, Ayub, let me just use this word. Cooley, I think he passed on the last year, he made a song called The Gangster Paradise. And it's so sad to see Kenya actually fall to the doldrums of a gangster paradise. Just last week, I remember the National Crime Research Center listed about 4 gangs in Nairobi here. Yeah? 42 brothers, Mungiki, Gaza, Wakaliwao, all these people on the streets roaming. Just yesterday I was walking down the streets here in Nairobi, and I met a leader of a gang. So sad that I actually had lunch in a table opposite his. I was so shocked, I was fearing, but this is how this country has reached. We walk amidst gangsters. Last week, the Finnish president came to State House, Alexander Stubb. And remember, the president categorically accepted, and he said, any abductions, we shall never have abductions again in this country. That means there have been abductions in this country. You see, abductions. No, the president himself made, we shall not have any other abductions. He's the same president who said there were no abductions. Later he's conceding and agreeing that there have been abductions in this government. Now, back to the issue of Kimburi. You see, to say that Kimburi self-abducted himself is to really lack sentience. You see, the other week...
so who abducted him in your view?
No, I'm actually giving the facts.
Yes, yeah.
The deputy president of the Law Society of Kenya, Mwaura Kabata,
yeah.
He came out and read, and he gave us a brief synopsis into the things that happened. 2 days before his arrest, there was a group of plainclothed men.
Whose arrest?
Sorry, his abduction.
So who abducted him?
His abduction. I'm reading to you. Plainclothed people were seen following this guy.
No, so it's a fair question.
No.
Who abducted him, Derek?
It's clear in Gashororo, Kiambu. So there was a police dragnet. I'm trying to give you the whole story.
Okay.
There was a police dragnet meant plainclothes people were following this guy. There was a police dragnet aimed particularly to Kimburi. He dodged it. That was 2 days before. 2 days later, the man disappears. And later we find him in Jimmy Wanjigi's farm, in a coffee farm, half dead. His respiratory system is unable to breathe. He's speechless. And right now he's in care and seeking treatment. You see, to use this, you're using the word selective. To be particular, you're saying it is selective when the shoe fits you, and when other people are abducted, for them they are self.
Okay, so let's get the facts right.
That's not right.
Okay,
that's not right. And let me make this. Right now we are mourning.
Let me ask you this. Just hang on. Pause. On Tuesday at 11 p.m. at night, the DCI said that it has arrested Cyrus Kiero Mohia, the close ally of the Juja MP George Kimburi, and the owner of the Subaru Forester car, which was used in the abduction of the MP.
That comes after the same DCI.
And we corroborated this evidence from the data portal of the NTSA, and clearly established that that vehicle which was used to take him on that Sunday belongs to Cyrus Kiero Mohia, a close ally of the MP and the owner.
It is true you corroborated that the car was his. But
so who abducted him? That's my question. It's very fair.
It was the police. He was abducted by the DCI.
But
and this has not been the first.
Hang on. Let's be fair to all parties here so that we have an objective discussion that's not subjective.
Yes.
Cyrus Kiero Mohia is not a police officer.
Correct. No, you've clearly said it. The corroboration was about the car being his. It was not about the abduction. It was used particularly in that abduction. I've told you clearly there was a dragnet 2 days before that incident laid down by the police. He dodged it in Gashororo.
Okay, so all the vehicles that were involved, assuming then what you're saying, belongs to, these are private vehicles used by the government of Kenya, according to you.
Yeah, particularly it's a private. But remember the fact.
So all the abductions that happened in Kenya, the missing persons, Kenyans who are taken off the streets, these vehicles are private vehicles, but used by GOK.
Ayub, the same police are saying the investigations are still ongoing. Why are you quick to issue a verdict?
The point is,
was a self-abduction.
Hang on.
The same police.
Derek, we have to be fair. I held Victor to account. I held Sawe to account. I held Wanjiko to account. I have to hold you to account.
When you have 80 abductions between June and October. 80 people were abducted. The president himself conceded there have been abductions in this country. Last week, Father Alois Cheruyot was gunned down, found in a plantation. The other, John Maina. We've had all these...
Derek, I come back to my question again. Who abducted the MP in your view?
It is clear. The same person that abducted 80 youths, 60 youths after the Gen Z, the same person that abducted John Kimburi.
Okay, so all the 80 who were abducted, in your view, were abducted using private vehicles belonging to personnel,
clearly,
yet used by the government of Kenya.
The Subaru story started particularly with private vehicles. And you see, Police have been using all sorts of things. They've used, there was a private vehicles, even in the Gen Z demonstrations. Yeah, we saw private vehicles being used, particularly by the police. So the evidence of a private vehicle in any way does not rule out government. Government operatives have been clearly using private vehicles to mask these operations. In December, when we saw the Kibet Bull abductions and the other 3 boys, clearly what vehicles were used? They were private vehicles.
And
can you say that they were private?
And there was no trace?
No, but clearly we saw the
because
footage.
we counter-check as professionals from the database of the National Transport and Safety Authority and TSA.
The footage, but do you realize, you were in the media,
yes.
And you do realize that the 4 abductions that were made last year in December were all made with private vehicles. But can you say it was not government that, the police themselves or the DCI that actually were carrying out these abductions? I
am not saying any party does. It's not for me to pass on the judgment. It's for me to corroborate and verify what he said.
I'm sorry, but you're on a fishing expedition to gather defense for the government.
Again, I come back. I'm not a government employee. Again, I come back. Who in your view then abducted the MP?
It's clearly, the MP has clearly said it has been abducted by the
not he. I'm just because you have made allegation which
I am actually decided. I do believe Kimburi, and it's clear, and it's not the first time. How many people have been abducted? Clear.
Okay.
How many police?
It's a very specific question that you have hovered around. Allow me to bring it up. Yes. Fair. Let's separate the time. Yes, Abdi.
You know, Ayub, we can vary in terms of opinions when it comes to matters of policy, politics and party. But on specific matters of human rights violations, let's first be human, and second, Kenyans. I'm here to urge my friend Kiprono, for once, when we are discussing such a sensitive topic, to forget where his bread is buttered.
My bread is not buttered.
And when you say the president has done enough, and you mock the 60 lives that were lost. What are you trying? You have been given an opportunity to speak in a national television. What are you trying to tell? What emotions are you showing that mama who has lost her child, the one who is still searching for her loved one? Now, are you also aware that a survey that was recently released by TIFA says that 75% of the country feel like the country is headed in the wrong directions, and the main reasons being failed leadership, unemployment, high cost of living, and human rights violation. And majority feel like the president has let them down. And Derek has also pointed at me when he mentioned Shashi forever is not working. I don't know, maybe because he feels like the cabinet secretary comes from my community. And you guys started murmuring, you and Faith and Kiprono. Let me school you a little bit on this topic, because you can't be jack of all trades. You've been talking on the human rights violation, but let me school you a little bit when it comes to universal health care. You said it's working, but let me tell you that universal healthcare cannot work in this country at the moment. If at all, it can only work maybe 20, 30 years from now. How? Let me first define for you what universal healthcare means. This is the ability to provide healthcare services to all the population of the country, anywhere, anytime. If I break it down to a layman's level, universal healthcare is like a 3-legged stool. One leg is access to hospitals, clinics, and dispensaries. The second leg is quality, the quality of doctors and drugs. And the third leg is affordability or cost. Now in Kenya, the stool is there, but the legs are not there. Tell me how a mama in Lokichogio or somewhere in the outskirts of Mandera can access a hospital where there are no even dispensaries. Tell me, the little places in the rural areas that have hospitals do not even have doctors, leave alone quality of drugs. Affordability. Do you know that majority of Kenyans work in the informal sector? I'm talking to Kiprono. Do you know that? Or you've kept quiet when I started engaging you intellectually?
My brother,
it's like you're having a muscle pull of the brain.
My brother,
no personal attacks here.
I need to come out
briefly
here.
Because Sawe has been.
I need in 30 seconds. Yeah. I have stated I am not coming here to be emotional. I'm coming here to state facts, and the fact is Sha is working, and the fact is Sha is working, and it is proven. And I can give an example of my own mother. who went to MTRH and she was treated on SHA. And we've seen testimonials. This is not my words. The bishops who are in State House actually stated that SHA is working. We've had testimonials from...
But it's only working on weekends and political rallies.
No,
and funerals.
And bishops.
Again,
and funerals.
Again, I want to challenge you.
You sound like this bureaucrat.
I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you.
I'm sorry to say this.
But you are the one who is making me to talk. And I'm actually borrowing on time of my brother Sawe. SHA is working. And it is proven. It is testimonials from Kenyans, not from Kiprono, because I've been accused that where my bread is. I am the CEO of Zero Barefoot Campaign. I have donated. I have donated 68,000 shoes to Kenyans. I have donated 68,000 shoes.
Because you're a state outlet.
You have been funded by
You're a state outlet.
Kiprono, I'm sorry to say this, but you sound... Listen. No, Kiprono, as a young person, you sound like this bureaucrat who are ignorant.
You need to protect me.
And be brief, because you are eating into Sawe's time.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. And thank you, Sawe, for giving me your time. For 30 seconds. I want to be categorical. I am the CEO of Zero Barefoot Campaign and Environment, which is non-political and it is non-profit. I am the CEO. And we do, our budgets are not funded by government. We do proposals writing. And actually, my books are really straight. I have done, and we've done a Zero Barefoot donations to the country, and my sister is accusing me that I'm being funded by government. We are not funded by government. This is an organization of young people who are going out to help fellow young citizens, people who go to school barefoot. And we do this because it is under our own way. I am a student of international relations and development, and I did development, and it is my part as a young person.
Thank you.
Solve community problems, but to be accused...
Nothing wrong. The government is funding it.
The point is made, yeah. Okay, point is made. Allow me to go to Sawe now. It's been silent for some time.
Thank you very much, Ayub, for moving the conversation forward. Maybe first is to urge my brother Victor, continue doing what you are doing. The jury is out there. You are doing a good job. He has personally come to a school in Nandi, and I've seen the impact of what he's doing. Please continue doing it. The second point is, I just want to make record straight. Father Alois is someone I knew personally. We are mourning him, and he had no political affiliation. Exactly. He didn't associate himself with any politics. He was just doing the Lord's work, and bandits gunned him down. So please, as we, even as we deliberate, as much as we want to sound emotional and all that, please, we have a community that is mourning in Nandi. People in Kerio are mourning, even the people in Tot are mourning. So let me just set the record clear that he was not in any way to be associated with the theatrics of politics that are working. And that is the point made. Kindly allow me to speak. I didn't speak when you were speaking. What I really want us to discuss when we come to this show is, let's look at the facts. When we talk about SHA working, no one has said that it is in perfect condition. Yeah. What we are saying is that it has started, and the numbers are looking forward. When you look at the total number of people that has been registered, 18 million already. NHIF never got to that number, even in the tenure that it was. We know there are people out there. Kenyans are watching. They have loved ones who are going every day for rental care, going for different services, and SHA is paying, which NHIF never paid for. So as we talk about this, let's hold ourselves accountable to numbers. How many people were served by NHIF? What has SHA done? And is government saying that SHA is in 100% condition? No, they are saying it's work in progress. This is the progress that we've made. Let's talk about gangs and abduction in a very objective manner. Nobody is saying that the 60 people who were killed were self-abducted. No, no one has ever come out and said that they were self-abducted. So he didn't say that, and I think we are making the record straight that it's different. When you talk about Kimburi's story, it's totally different with what happened with the youths. And let's separate that. We have the police has given us records of what happened. So the choice is ours. Do we want to believe the agencies that are professionally running this country, or do we want to believe the politicians? So if today you got yourself into a problem, trust me, you look for the police. So let's give police time, let's listen to them. Then we can go back and check the facts. When the police says this car belongs to so-and-so, we have a platform we can verify. Unless you have different facts, please state. Finally, I just want to say that there are so many things that are looking positive. I'm thinking about the youths that we are representing here. 67% of youths do not have jobs. Out of every 10 young people, 4 of them only are employed, 6 are not. What are the solutions that we are giving? Whether we are supporting DCP, whether we are supporting KANU, what are the solutions that we are giving? And what are the facts that we can state that Kenya Kwanza government has done? We had 8.9 thousand kilometers, 8,900 kilometers of NOFB or fiber before the presidency of William Ruto. Right now, we have over 10,200 kilometers. We had 300 of fiber connection.
Okay.
Before President Ruto came in, we had only 339 Ajira centers. William Ruto has done 290 additional in just 2.5 years of Ajira centers where youths are getting jobs and doing online jobs. Is that enough? No. How can we talk about, why can DCP, KANU and all these other political parties come with solutions on how they can do more than 290? How they can make sure that we move SHA from 18 million covered to 30 million covered. Why can't KANU and these other political parties tell us about how many teachers are going to be hired when they come in? William Ruto has hired, in his government, they've hired over 50,000 teachers. The ratio of students, or rather learners to teachers is going towards the right direction. What solutions do they have? We have infrastructure that are stalled. We have things that has to be done, PPPs that are happening now with government. So what solutions are these people giving? Whether we are talking from a judicial perspective, infrastructure perspective, human right perspective, what are the positive strides towards it? Because we can't just come here and talk about, for all of a sudden, Rigathi Gachagua, who was impeached, is now the solution, without clearly stating what is this that Rigathi Gachagua, in his track record, or even in his vision, is going to help us as young people. Because as young people, we want a very clear direction on how we are going to put our support. And what I see, Ayub, with the discussions that are happening here, then William Ruto is likely to do 10 years. And even if he's going to do these 10 years, who are these people who are going to hold him accountable? I don't see anyone who is holding William Ruto accountable, because people are being emotional and no one is giving us the numbers and solutions.
Yes.
So finally, as I close,
yes,
I just want to really appeal to all of us. Let us come here with sort of facts so that we can have a very objective discussion, leave emotions back at home. Then let's come here and actually discuss numbers. This is what SHA has done. This is what the NOFB program has done. These are the number of people who've gotten jobs. For instance, I can give you an example of what county industrial development centers have done. I am an entrepreneur in avocado. Today, when I go to Moranga, there are avocados that are aggregated there. Before they were not there, we used to use pro boxes all the way to Nairobi. So how can we improve this and move this crop to other places in the country?
Okay.
So those are the things that I would really urge us as young people to talk about.
Okay.
And finally is...
SHA. Okay,
and the community health promoter. Just to finalize.
Right of reply, at least.
You have to have right of reply.
I ran the show, Derek.
You had to say that.
But I'll come to you. So let on Wednesday issued what was much awaited by Kenya's young, given the brunt that they bore in the aftermath, during, and the aftermath of June 25th events. What was the reception on the part of young Kenyans, given what happened to the 60 who were killed, more than 1,000 who were injured, and the men who are still missing to their families? How was that received within the quarters of young Kenyans?
Thank you for that question. Allow me to start by mourning Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o. I mourn him today because he really contributed to my journey in political experience. Running for office in 2022 was a daunting task. It was really heavy. And his book, A Grain of Wheat, is the book that gave me hope and sojourned with me, because politics is hard. And reading about the challenges that Mau Mau went through as they fought for independence reminded me why I have to keep going. And now to come back to your question, I will say this, this was such a late task that the president took, because we expected him to do a public acknowledgement and an apology very early, last year in fact. But it came very late, and it came with ifs. And when you say if, then you're not publicly acknowledging. You say there was nothing wrong you did, you're not acknowledging what happened, what this regime did to its young people. Therefore, it is in bad taste. I will say, what are the actions that the president said consequently after his apology? Mm-hmm. We expected to see reconciliatory measures because young people are demanding justice. The families that lost its people demand justice. We want to see police reforms, legislative reforms. Mm-hmm. We also want to see maybe he would have even put up a constitutional inquiry. You know, we see measures that are being taken to take into action what happened. We also wanted to see what is this? Wanted to see that they'll go to hospitals, look at the young people that were injured, visit the families, bring them to maybe State House or somewhere where they can sit and have conversation, because conflict resolution has to happen. Transitional justice actions must happen. So they have also to compensate families of you know, where maybe young people are still in hospitals. Okay. Let's take care of them. But we didn't see these actions. So was it really in good faith? Because he just said some words and that was it. Okay. But it has to be followed by actions. Okay. Yeah.
And Barasa, then how can this be translated into justice beyond those who are inflicted with the injuries that they sustained to their families? Because it's a representation of the Kenyan society. What then happens to the families who some still have missing kin, and the government says, acknowledges they are not in their custody?
Many thanks, Ayub. You see, the events that happened this week by the president are mischievous in a way. You see, I'm a Christian, and when you read the Bible, there's the book of Ecclesiastes in around chapter 5, verse 4 to 6. It tells us not to make promises in vain. The president clearly came up and made a promise in vain. We know that he did not mean any inch of the things that he said on that very day. Second of all, our constitution, the first line in our constitution, which was promulgated on the 27th of August, 2010, says, we, the people of Kenya, believing in the sovereignty of the God of all creations, do believe that we shall enact this constitution. The president, in the same way, butchered the constitution when he made that very surreptitious apology. But that's not the issue today. Let me discuss the content of the apology that he made. You see, this is not the first time. We saw it in the Gen Z last year. The president has come up with a paternalistic kind of... it is a power dynamic meant to comb young people, yeah, in a way as he prepares for the next events in his kind of pseudo-democracy. You see, what the president has always done is to infantilize the younger generation and to make us feel like we are his children. In any way, Ayub, if I ask you, who is a child? Nani mtoto? His statement was, our children, in case, if he called us children. You see, if clearly he came up and understood and threw away the condescending nature of his apology and looked at us as shareholders in this government, as people that are not just recipients of this kind of democracy in Kenya, that he gets to understand that we are very mature, we are competent enough to run this country. And he leveled that engagement with us at that level and decided to discuss with us at that particular level. That would have been a sober promise. You see...
But he did engage you guys on July the 5th. And he convened an online meeting. Young Kenyans joined. They vented their frustrations at him. He listened. He sat through the meeting. In fact, he cancelled other engagements. Now he has apologized. If this isn't enough, what then is enough on your part that will satisfy the needs of young Kenyans?
You see, there's a difference between a symbolic action and a substantive action. What the president has been doing ever since June 25th last year has been a series of symbolic actions to show that he is aware of what is happening. But the real substance, which must be done based on concrete policy, behavioral change, and really reparative justice. We have not seen those things happening. Rex Masai and many others died. How many people were abducted last year? Between June and October, over 80 people were abducted. But up to now, we've never seen any reparative action by the president and the people around him to go and address those key concerns. What we continue to see are knee-jerk reactions by a government that is very uncertain about the next election, trying to circumvent around the next generation so that they can build an empire around us. However, as young people, we're going to make it clear. You see, this whole lackluster behavior and conditional promises by the president shall not come to fruit. You see, let me also say, nail this. You see, as I land, you see the president in his statement, and I know many people have discussed this, the if nature of that apology. That actually goes to show us the body and substance, the matter behind that promise. You see, if is a conditional clause,
yes.
If I say, let me use this. If Arsenal wins the Champions League,
it's a possibility.
It's a possibility, but I mean, we've waited for this for a long time. Arsenal has not won the Champions League. If the president, when the president comes up to say if, that is an ambiguous clause. What we want to see is an unequivocal promise. A promise that I am going to apologize. I am going to build reparative justice for those people who are affected by these actions since June 25th last year. You see, and remember, it took.
Allow me to bring you proceed.
Let me just. It took a whole motivational speaker.
We have enough time to get through all this. Allow me to get the voices as well of the others who are here on the set. Victor, in your view, was that enough on the part of young Kenyans?
Thank you, Hayub, for this opportunity. I think the president has done more than enough in trying to reconcile the country, and I want to thank the head of state that in the context actually of the apology was it was actually a prayer breakfast where the country comes together, we pray together, and we do the healing process of a nation. And the president did apologize. I am saddened by the panelists who are saying that the president thought or at the oath to have done miracles. When you do an apology, are you?
Miracle.
The president is not a miracle worker. Mm-hmm. You cannot do an apology, immediately go to hospitals, visit the families. You first apologize to the country. And the president said, if there is any mistake, and if there were anything, we apologize as a country.
There were mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Now, and again, now I want to make it clear that the president is the father of the nation. My panelist is saying, if we are the children of the president, in fact, the president is the head of state and the father figure of the country. And he apologized in that context as the father of the nation. So then, therefore, it means the young generation and the Gen Zs for that matter will therefore, in the same spirit of apology and concessions, will therefore say, well, the president has apologized. What is the next step further? Is for engagement. Build on that background that the president has laid. Let us come together as a country. Let us unite. Let us now form conventions of peace and unity. But if the president apologizes today and you come out and say, oh, the president ought to do this, ought to have done this, I mean, for heaven's sake, let's give the president a break. Because again, this is a person who invited the same Gen Zs on an online platform for talks. The same people said we are faceless. Yeah. Now the president comes out, he apologizes. The same people are going out. That is not an apology. Give me a definition of an apology. Okay,
we'll talk more about the substance of it, because what then happens to the families of the 60 who were killed?
Talking about abductions, and my panelists have said about that.
We'll come to the abduction
now
part.
We've known who are the real planners and orchestrators of abduction.
Okay, we'll talk at length more about that. But more important here is that 60 young lives were cut short. Yeah. And more than 1,100 had sustained gunshot. Yes, Angon Victor, we'll prosecute all this in an open manner and substantively talk about what then is in the best interest of our country. All right? Allow me also to bring in the others so that we have an hour and 15 minutes to go before we summarize all this. Yes, Abdul, to you. I'll come to you, Faith. Yes, please.
And to begin with, I am a Muslim, and I believe in the power of forgiveness. I also know that forgiveness is the only antibiotic that does not have a side effects. But the president's apology is what I would call an empty apology. Why? Because well-intended apologies are not conditional. You don't begin with an if, and if at all. And we don't need the president to apologize our forgiveness would have come automatically if he brought to book the perpetrators of torture, abduction, and extrajudicial killings of Kenyans. That is what he ought to have done, and our forgiveness would have come automatically. We would have understood him. And I want to urge my brother here, Victor Kiprono, just for today, to respect the lapel I am wearing here that stands for humanity. If at all you don't respect the people of Kenya, please just respect this lapel. Putting on this, seated here today, I stand for humanity. And you know, we cannot mock the families that lost over 60 people. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Ayub. And on my side, what I would like to say is that first, I acknowledge that lives were lost. It was a bad thing that in a democratic country, something like that will actually happen. And the young people on the street fighting for their rights, and they had their agendas. But it's a very bad thing that it had to end that way. But now the president coming out to apologize, I think it's a good thing. And even if you go back to 2024, since the time after the Gen Z demonstration, what has the president done since then? You know, just like he said, the Gen Zs are the first people to say they're faceless. The president went faceless and talked to them on Twitter. You know, they say they're leaderless. How are they going to be engaged if they don't have a leader? You know, they say they're tribeless. And even when the broad-based was formed, the 10 points agenda, reduction is included there, you know, and compensation of families that lost their kins. It's in the 10 points agenda of broad-based government. So I think the president has done a lot, and just coming out to apologize. We demanded that youth be included in this cabinet. We are the same people that are fighting when youths are there. We have the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Fikirini Jacobs as PS. You see, we have in the Ministry of the engineer. He's 34 years old. He's a youth. But we are the same people who are still saying, you know, you haven't done enough. So it's like we wanted the specific type of people that we wanted to be appointed, yet we're the same people who couldn't even front those who could represent us. So I think where the situation where we are at a country with the youths is that we've become so negative. We're criticizing everything, that anything that comes from the president or anything that comes from the government must be criticized. Even if it's a good thing, it must be looked into an angle that it might have to spike a negative reaction. So the president coming out on a national prayer day to say, I'm sorry, I think that is just enough.
Okay.
And what we should demand for right now is, after sorry, what next? And how are you showing that you're sorry?
Okay.
You know, but you must first accept the apology, then what next? You see, from there, that is when we can say, you know, you said you're sorry, but why are your actions not telling that you're actually sorry?
Okay. Elijah, Faith argues that what the president said and he has done so far is enough. But what's enough to the families of those who lost their kin?
Thank you, Ayub. So first, I think we should all appreciate that it's a fact that on June 25th and 26th, there was a lot of uprising in this country, and it was unprecedented. We had never seen such an organic, unprecedented self-awareness of youths, and actually youths coming out beyond tribal and political lines to express themselves. It was a momentous occasion for our country and our democracy. And I think we also have to appreciate the fact that there are people who were killed, extrajudicial killings, and it is wrong. How I look at this is we must accept that there were mistakes that were done. But let's look at the man, the president. We've had 4 presidents before him. And I think this is the second time we've had a president apologizing, and not once. I remember President Moi, where Dr. Baraza's party is based, that is KANU, apologized once when he was leaving, and he said, kama kuna mtu nimemkosea naomba msamaha. President, we never had any apology from President Kibaki when we had the most severe killings in 2007, 2008. Uhuru Kenyatta, when the judiciary, when he stood and spoke about the judiciary and clearly said he will revisit, he never went back and made any apology. We've seen the first time a president who comes in human face and takes responsibility of what the government did and actually apologizes. So for me, that is a good step to our democracy. But that is not the point.
But Elijah, context matters here.
Yeah.
The events in the aftermath of the 2007-8 post-election skirmishes were subjected to a tribunal outside Kenya, where our current president and his predecessor, among 6 other Kenyans, were charged with crimes against humanity.
Yes.
For what has happened in 2007. Then what's the correlation between what then ended up at the ICC and the apology issued by President William Ruto to the Gen Z?
I think I don't want to go back to that history, Ayub, because when you look at that history, there are so many political connotations around it. There are people who even argue that in 2007, we should have the presidential candidates actually being part of the people who were charged, but other people took political responsibility because of that. But I don't want to talk about it because that is a matter that went all the way to the ICC, and it was fully pronounced, and I don't want to go back to that. But I know what really takes you back to that is the spirit of those actions. I think how I look at it is the president has continuously showed us that we can actually have leaders who are ready to own up on the mistakes that they've done and ready to make policies that takes us forward. Why I'm saying this is because what next to the 60 people or the 60 lives that were lost? We've seen the change in the IG. The Inspector General of Police, who was there when this happened, is no longer the Inspector General. We've seen a number of people who've been charged because of that. We've seen the necessary steps that were taken. The President opened up a platform for youths to talk to him. We've seen changes in youths being put on the table, being appointed as PSs and all that. So I think it is okay to really go back and vilify people because of the mistakes that have happened before, but as a country we must move forward. We have to move forward.
How many police officers are on trial for the 60 killings, other than the case of Rex Masai, who was one of the first casualties, fell by bullet, and that trial ongoing, given its prominence? How many more police officers are on trial, given the other lives that were lost? Because one life lost is too many.
True. At least even so far we know, because that is the one that has been publicized, but I know for sure we've seen so many. Personally, where I come from in Nandi Hills, I know a police officer who lost his job because of issues to do with that demonstration. It was never publicized, but the matter was handled by the police oversight, and he lost his job. Probably we need to go back and check all the statistics, which I should be able to go back and check for you, but I can assure you there are people who've lost jobs, and figuratively we've even gone ahead and seen the IG of police being changed because of those
the bar can't be this low that we just have, we haven't seen IPOA's report. We haven't seen any police, and we have that. The evidence is very clear, even just using what is public with us, what is accessible with all of us. We saw the police officers that killed young people on the BBC documentary. These police officers are still roaming free. The bar can't be this low that we can sit here and justify in a country that of a median age of 19 years. We sit here to be proud and say we only have 2 young people at the helm of leadership. We can't be this, we can't do this, we can't accept that this country, 60 young people died, and we say, so the president just did a public apology, and he did not follow up with actions. It took him 1 year. He would have come up, he's a president. And one thing about this country is that we have a crisis of accountability. The president gave a sorry excuse of apology but he did not follow up with any actions. I wish he even said, we're going to, even one of the first action I'm going to take is let's have a national memorial of those more than 60 lives that were lost. Let's sit down and just have a memorial. Let's have a national reflection of what really happened.
Okay.
Because we sweep these things under the carpet,
okay,
and young people continue feeling ignored.
Okay.
Ayub, if you
Point
allow me,
taken.
Abductions are continuing as we speak.
We have 1 hour and 2 minutes. Still there's time. So allow me to also get the audience watching from home here. Is what you're saying on X. Our handle is @CitizenTV Kenya, @Ayub Abdikadir. The hashtag is CitizenTV Kenya.